happy to celebrate Angelo Giokas' exhibition. I just want to remind you what the mission of our Creative Arts Department is, so you can see how well Angelo's work fits into our system. We expect our students to have acquired a knowledge and an understanding of the fundamental experiences in the field of the creative arts. We expect them to have developed a critical appreciation of the historical and contemporary forms of creativity and communication as they relate to individual as well as social needs and values. And we expect them to be able to articulate critical thought. Angelo is supreme. Angelo Giokas came to Siena in 2010. Since then, he has studied in our areas of music, theater, and art, and has pulled their modes into his imagination. He is one of the few people I know that seriously speaks of soul, and his soul is fascinated by creativity. So when he did a semester at London's Goldsmith College, he was ready to absorb serious art theory. His contribution to our program has been his absorption in the eternal questions of art. What it is, when it is, and lately, how it is. He presents us with works that are layered not only in fact, but in meaning. His works call for his words. So let's hear from Angelo. Let's learn how synergy reveals itself through his words and through his works. Angelo?
Hello.
And of course he has a lectern.
Try to keep this a little brief. Yeah, I would like to thank everyone that's here for taking their time out of their lives to come and view my art. In particular, I'd like to thank Dr. Trudy Kuhil, Denise, Mahmoud, and everyone in the Creative Arts Department, as well as my family and the friends who have become family, in particular Greg Linder and my girlfriend Rosie Devine. Along with producing all the visual work that you see here and setting up the exhibition space, I wrote an 11-page paper for my capstone, as well as a 10-page paper for a sensation and perception course last semester. Right now, I'm going to briefly tell you about the content of that paper. In the spring of 2011, while studying abroad in London, I read some literature that argued the nature of pictorial semantics and the communicative properties of images. As a response to the claims made in the book, I made an attempt to create abstract art through a process of collage. I eventually integrated paint to further alter the content and structure of the pieces. I enjoyed the process and product so much that I began to examine it with the utmost self-motivation and reflection, and have been examining it ever since. I have found that the immediate difficulty in analyzing synergy revealed is not in relating the abstractions or in declaring what, if anything, of these pieces is representational, but rather to truly define the synergistic relationships. My lack of experience in technical training in painting required me to find another way to employ the paint. My likes for Jackson Pollock and abstract expressionism certainly was a huge influence. And so I decided to throw paint from my hands and dispense it from water bottles or milk cartons or any other object I could fabricate and get my hands on. And even while the event of painting and the presence of the paint are necessary, they are not mutually sufficient. The paint alone doesn't make the art piece, and the collages too are indispensable. But they don't make the art piece either. It seemed to require the combination of both the paint and the collage. And the main question that I had to ask myself while I was creating these pieces and while I was studying was, why did I decide to throw paint after working so hard on a collage? I've tried to define my craft with a bunch of lingo about art theory and the art worlds, and I was trying to impose preconception about what the art ought to be doing. I tried to force it into the constraints of the literature that I had read. And I've spent hours trying to figure out what I was doing. And I have learned at this juncture that irrespective of whether or not the literature I had read applies directly to my art, they have energized a continuum of inspiration and a life source of growth and self-knowledge. And here's what I discovered. Initially, I deduced the meaning of my artwork to thoughts on mimesis, obviously because the literature I had read was regarding thoughts on mimesis and representation. It turns out, however, that I actually am not making claims about mimesis at all. I'm rejecting mimetic qualities of images, and instead I'm highlighting the beauty of perspective and the ways of seeing beyond immediate depiction. I have abandoned mimetic qualities and instead choose abstracted color, texture, form, partial content, and arrange them in a way that's akin to music or the language of poetry. The collage process is impulsive, compelling, laborious, and done in earnest. Oftentimes during the phase of extracting in the collage, I feel out of my mind, where I'm not thinking of the mechanics anymore. It became a learned process. Plato would call it divine inspiration. But while it seems that I'm out of my mind, I'm actually extremely aware of what I'm doing. It's a fully conscious process. It's just become so learned that it feels like I don't have control of it anymore, but I do. The extractions are conscious reflections of my feeling and imagination. There's no longer a need for them to suggest something about their representation. I'm not concerned with that. I then paste the extractions to the canvas, and the process becomes a pattern of extracting and pasting. Anticipation builds, memory is harbored, and fingertips accumulate the grit of rubber cement and paper trail. The collage becomes more and more abstract with the addition of each extraction to the canvas. My valorization of these efforts contributes to an experience that is aesthetically intoxicating, but the collages do not suffice for the completed artwork. There are many reasons why I find the paint to be so special, and in the beginning stages of the process, I thought it had to do with the perceptual quality of the layering of the collage and paint. There's no doubt that there is some truth to the perceptual stimulation of the relationship between the collage and the paint, but it's not the quintessence of the work. I had the realization that in order to define the synergistic relationships between collage and action art, I needed to forget what I thought I was doing and instead turn to what I believe I was doing. I needed to look at the passage of time through a holistic lens between each process, because each process was so idiosyncratic in its own way. Some days I go type on my laptop with painted fingers. Sometimes the paint would do something that I didn't intend. But I still cannot justify or legitimize the meaning simply by the objects I've created. I've come to believe that the paint makes me more aware of myself, often, if not entirely, by making me more aware of how the collage shifts in my perception during the entire process. When the content of the artwork shifts from a collage into a collage with action art, I expect self-discovery, or at least I expect to feel a sensation of pleasure in respect to the product I have created. I hope the same sensations might be experienced by the viewer. Implied lines connect two arbitrary points on the collage that were never ever connected before. A part that's here and now here. You learn to see it because the paint implies emotion between the two. And since I usually deploy the paint from my hands, squeeze it into my hands, rub it around and throw it, I just feel more synchronized with the work. It becomes an artifact of an event. It captures my movement and rhythm to the point it becomes a signature. It becomes a residue that enhances line, color, and movement, yes, but even more so, enhances a level of esteem bestowed to the process correlative to the objectified work itself. The synergistic